Hello and welcome to Fintech Focus TV with me, Toby Babb, and delighted to be joined today with Phil from Taskize. How are you doing?
Thank you for having me.
Great to see you.
Yeah.
So, exciting couple of years for the business. You are 2 years now where you've been listed on the most influential fintechs by the Financial Technology.
I know, thank you very much.
Well done, back to back. Kept the spot, and the business has been thriving.
Yep.
We were talking recently, you've sailed through 200 clients now.
Yep.
And it continues to go on an upward trajectory. I remember talking to you a year ago and hearing about the sort of growth and success of the business. For those who haven't heard of you, where have they been? But tell us a little bit more about the business.
Where have they been? So first of all, we're delighted to be named in the influential fintechs 2 years in a row. That's really great news, especially because the platform has only been live for just over 2 years. So last year was a really big achievement for us. I think when we came to you last year, we had under 100 clients, and now, as you say, we've passed 200 clients. So the network continues to grow, which we're very excited about. For those people that don't know what Taskize is, what it is in a nutshell is an interbank issue management and resolution platform. That's what it fundamentally does. Now, you need to peel away what that actually means to make sure people understand it. And most of the organizations that are out there and most of the technologies that are out there are looking to increase rates of STP, increase rates of automation, trying to make things work from beginning to end without touching the sides. That is the main investment in banking technology, and it's been that way for many, many years. Taskize looks at the problem from the other direction and says, well, what if we aren't going to get rid of the people? What if we are still going to have breaks in post-trade processing? And we focus only in the post-trade space, post-trade or operations or back office. The name is synonymous wherever you go. And our focus is looking at the way people solve problems and trying to make that process more efficient, more controlled, more secure, and easier to manage. That's what Taskize brings to the market.
And it's been a really interesting area because there is a theme, and I think when we had the event to launch the magazine, people were talking a lot about that post-trade area and the opportunities in it.
Yeah.
And I think we're seeing a lot of people sort of really focusing on that area right now and say there's some real problems, some real opportunities, and it's companies like yours who are innovating in that space and really providing some of the solutions to it. And providing real solutions, I think, is one of the key aspects of a business that's going to be influential in this year. It sounds obvious.
Yeah.
but
it sounds obvious, but sometimes people provide answers to questions that don't really exist.
Yeah, which is a very, very common trait within fintech.
Yeah.
So with that, and with having a product that is so compelling within that space, as quite often happens, one of the issues that comes up is procurement. So you've got a great problem. You're solving an issue that exists in the arena. But people are suffocated because of issues with the client base who you're targeting.
Yes, indeed.
Yet you've been a business that's thrived over you've heard over 200 people solving that problem over 200 times. Yeah. Tell us a little about your philosophy on that and how you've done it.
Oh, well, you're absolutely right. So we go and talk to organisations, primarily the COOs of these organisations, and they can see immediate value. They like the fact that we're providing a SaaS-based platform, so a frictionless solution that can be deployed quickly, and they can start to get ROI against it relatively quickly. There aren't many technologies that allow you to do that today. Yeah. And then they hand you over to the procurement process, and that procurement process can take time. What we found is that everybody goes through the same cycle. Some of those cycles are quick, and you can be through it in, say, 3 weeks. And some of them, and especially for the larger organisations, that process can be quite a long time. And it's completely understandable. We know that the procurement process is important and you must not cut corners. But when something takes you a year to go through procurement, the only way that you keep going is with positive, persistent pressure to get through all of those questions. We have received information security questionnaires that are nearly 1,000 questions long. And I'm sure they all believe that they're asking very unique questions. In reality, 90% of them are all the same. Yeah. So as you pointed out, all of the clients that we go through have the opportunity to take us through their procurement process. It's only the very, very large ones that take the time. and that's where we have to focus. We have a dedicated team specifically looking at information security and at the legal side of things, but fundamentally we are sort of set up to be as easy to consume by a bank as possible.
And is that's the thought process behind it? Because you've worked in huge vendors in the past, and sort of coming down to this, it must have been a bit of a shock to the system in some sort of ways.
I don't think it was a shock to the system, but one of the benefits, and everybody inside of Taskize has come from a banking or banking technology background, is that we understand what it's like to sit in the other side. So we know that we need to bring value to every meeting. We know we need to make it as easy as possible for them to consume from their perspective. So that's really, really helpful. We have various design principles inside of Taskize. One of them is called Frictionless Onboarding. So we try and make something as easy to consume both commercially, legally, from an information security perspective, but also the platform has to be really simple to understand, and it has to give value from the very first day. What we found is that if you provide someone with a really easy to learn platform and it doesn't give them any value, they'll stop using it. But if you give them something that's easy to use and it provides value, they'll embrace it. And that's what we find. So we start off generally with small user group, and it quickly grows and grows and grows. And from our perspective, we track that in the form of adoption, and we're seeing people adopt the platform in increasing rates because of the frictionless aspects of it.
And I think that's an important part of it, isn't it? You look at the businesses that I think have thrived over the last 5 years, probably in the financial technology space, and words that you're using are ease of use. You're talking about cost reduction to an extent, and solving issues. And if you look at that as a sort of magic triumvirate, so to speak, of things there which provide that sort of perfect storm for people to adopt and buy and move it, it's no wonder I think that you're growing at the sort of pace and speed that you are. And it started when exactly?
We went live December 2016.
December 2016.
But
so.
to pick up on those 2 points, I think what we try and do is we try and build trust. That's really important. And the second one is we always listen to the customer. So Taskize, we organise what we call Taskize Operations Forums. We call them TOFs. We're now on our 14th TOF, so they're quarterly. We ran most of them in the UK. We get them hosted by either a customer or a prospective customer, and we bring together people so they get to talk amongst themselves about the issues that they have in resolving issues amongst themselves and how Taskize can help. We find that is a much better forum for getting out the real problems and what people are actually looking for. And then we started running TOFs over in New York at the end of last year, and I think we've done 4 now, and we're mixing with the buy side and the sell side together, because that's another area of strong interest when it comes to interbank issue resolution.
And this is a physical community as opposed to a virtual community.
If we physically bring people together, whether it's at the offices of a client or at the offices of, say, a Euroclear or a DTCC, who are both clients, but they're also they have a special place on the network, as you can imagine. We physically bring them together. We run it from 8 a.m. till 10 a.m. so they can be back in the office really quickly. We understand that operations is all about being back at the office, right? And we try and provide value, and we open up the forum. So on the last 4 or 5 occasions, we have spoken for less and less time, and we've opened up to the audience, and individual customers and prospects are starting to discuss how they're using Taskize, the fact they want to pilot with other people in the room. And one of the things that's been most interesting about it is that I thought everybody in the industry would know everybody in the industry at that level in operations, and actually they don't. No, so it's kind of a good introductory process as well.
Your community, effectively.
Very much so. We're seeing familiar names coming back and back and back.
I mean, this is very reminiscent of Salesforce, effectively, and how they grew with Mark Benioff right at the very start.
Well, hopefully,
to have I mean, look
nice.
if it mirrors that, then you're doing well. But his book is an incredible read if you haven't read it already, and it's basically the playbook of how they grew, and a lot of it was having that peer-to-peer aspect of solving each other's problems with it and collectively improving the product. That then became, I think it was 30 people very early on, sort of meeting together, and subsequently Dreamforce, their yearly event has swelled, the population of California by about 16% or whatever it is. So maybe that's the next phase for you guys.
Well, that's interesting actually, because the TOF is actually going to bifurcate now. So we're going to reduce the size of it for specific sort of strategic advisory board, and then we're going to grow it to those organisations that are interested but don't know so much about Taskize. Because having both sets of people in the same room actually became a little bit frustrating for the audience. So that's our next plan.
I think their philosophy was having people there who would evangelise about the product and spread it to people who are their clients and not clients. But I do absolutely understand that. I think it's an excellent idea, and I think it's clever to see businesses help to solve the issues together. It's becoming a lot more collaborative, I think, fintech full stop at the moment, from being
certainly the
very isolated pillars. It's now people looking to help each other to solve the big issues, and I think that's had to happen with the growing complexity in the marketplace. So in terms of the year ahead, on a macro basis, we've heard all the same sort of stuff around regulatory issues. We've heard about Brexit and macroeconomics and all that sort of thing. You think a big part of it will be about how companies within the FS space can really work with procurement teams and break down some of those barriers to entry with businesses?
I think that's just the nature of the beast. You're absolutely right. Regulatory pressure is always there. There are certain regulations that sort of work towards our favour. So if you're looking at CSDR, OTCD, or some of the other regulations, they require organisations to have better oversight on all of the issues that they're managing. And organisations can do that internally, or say all, but most organisations have that capability. Some of those that we would expect to have it are actually asking Taskize if we can help internally. But the majority of post-trade problems require you to reach into another organisation. And today, the only way of reaching into another organisation is either by phone, by email or chat. And none of those platforms really are fit for purpose. So if you were to sit down and watch somebody try and resolve a corporate action or a settlement break or confirmation issue, a margin dispute, and you watch the way that they had to reach into another organisation and find somebody, and remembering that in operations one person is not the be-all and end-all, there's generally groups of people who can perform the same role. If you actually write down the requirements of that individual, you wouldn't build email, you wouldn't build chat, you certainly wouldn't build phone. What you would do, we believe, is you'd build Taskize. And everything that's been put into the platform is specifically around making it easier for an individual in one organisation to create a problem ticket and assign it into somebody else in another organisation, whether it be their counterparty, a client through the client services capability, to their own outsourcer, to another vendor. It doesn't really matter to us. But at the moment, the only way of doing that is through email. And that, in all of the conversations that we've had, is not a platform that people are happy to continue with.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a movement along that sort of way, isn't it? In all areas of business, and I think particularly in FS, there's to have some. Would you call it disruption? But it is disruption, effectively, isn't it, within the space?
Yeah, it's a tricky one, isn't it?
Overused term.
Yeah, and also innovation. Sort of an evolution, because operations are generally resistant to change. And so what you're trying to do is to create something that simplifies the process. So easy adoption, frictionless, as we talked about earlier, but also providing a return on the investment really, really quickly. So you can start using Taskize on a Monday and get value on the Monday immediately. And so that's really, really important. So the idea of being able to demonstrate return on investment quickly, both in terms of the investment that you make, but also in the way that you run your operations teams, whether it's locally or globally, is very important. It's one of the things that we focus on. There's the ability inside of Taskize to run real-time metrics so that you can see what level of service you're providing to your customers and what level of service you are being given by your providers. And today, the only way of doing that is by sifting through a whole bunch of emails and trying to work out what went on. And we know that organisations spend 1 or 2 weeks every month working out what the service that they provided was in that month.
Yeah.
And then they build this report and they take it to their customer, and then the customer spends maybe the first 20 minutes debating the accuracy of the report.
Yeah.
In a situation where both firms are using Taskize, they both print off the same report. So they don't dispute what the numbers say, they then focus on how do we improve the client service.
Yeah.
And that changes the relationship entirely, both for the buy side, who are delighted that they now have one place to manage all of their issues,
yeah,
and not disparate portals and websites and systems for doing it.
Yeah.
It's great for the relationship manager because they become relationship managers. What we found is that they've become list tickers and bottlenecks,
yeah,
and that's not what they signed up for.
Yeah.
And it becomes great for the operations teams because they get to navigate through an organization, find the right person who can perform the right role right now,
Yeah.
bring them into a secure, we call it a bubble, a secure workspace, and they can then collaborate to resolve the issue,
Yeah.
safe in the knowledge that what's going on inside that bubble
Yeah.
stays in the bubble, and it's only those people who are collaborating who get visibility of what's going on,
Yeah.
and obviously management get the necessary oversight.
Yeah.
So that's what we do.
And that's exactly the reason why I think you've put yourself, solving that sort of issue and providing that sort of efficiency, which I think is so important these days, has been exactly the reason why the business has doubled its customer base over the last year. So I'm pleased we were right last year in putting it into the business.
And here's looking forward to next year.
Absolutely. So speaking of which, to wrap things up here, you mentioned it, and we're talking about a business that's grown from strength to strength. You mentioned New York beforehand as well. Tell us what's next. Tell us what's in store for the business.
Well, the US is important for us, so we're spending more and more time talking directly to the US customers. It's a big country,
Huge
right?
market,
So for that, we have to put some dedicated resources down for that. So that's going really, really well. I think from a network perspective, you do hit a tipping point. So some of the large tier ones that we've recently signed up, both on the buy side and the sell side, are going to create a gravitational effect towards the network. So this year we would really expect the network to really move. So that's the second thing. But I think the most important thing is the principle of interoperability. Because when we go and speak to the COOs in these firms, both the asset management and the sell side, they're all about trying to maximize the investment they currently made, and they don't really want any additional technology. So although Taskize can be deployed completely standalone, it can also be integrated into your existing exception management capability. So we've already integrated with Euroclear's EasyWay, with the DTCC's new exception management platform. We've integrated with a reconciliation tool for portfolio reconciliations, which is a very strong use case. We're talking to another half a dozen different providers to do the same thing, because they concentrate on maximizing SDP, and then when a break is identified, they just click the Send to Taskize button, and that lifts the exception information out of their system, creates a problem ticket in Taskize, and then the user is able to use Taskize to reach into the other organization to start resolving the issue. So for us, interoperability, I think this year is key.
Yeah, well, exciting times.
Very exciting. Very exciting.
Who should be talking to you? Who should, if someone's watching this, where can you add value?
So we generally spend our time talking to people in operations, COOs and MDs in the operational space. Anybody that offers a client service and are looking to have more of a digital client service capability. Euroclear use Taskize across its client services team, so they have over 300 people on Taskize, and we're part of their new client digital strategy. So any inbound or outbound query for Euroclear can be handled through bubbles on Taskize. So that's the one example. Anybody that's looking to outsource or has outsourced their operation capability, certain regulations require you to have oversight on that outsourcer. So you can outsource the responsibility, but you can't outsource the accountability, and Taskize allows you to have the necessary oversight, so that's an important one. Those organisations that are just drowning in email, and we know that the large banks can get up to 1 million emails a day.
Is that right?
Yeah, it's incredible. And how do you actually manage that capability?
Yeah.
And even if you succeed doing it internally, the moment you hit the boundaries of your organisation, you're left back in the world of email again, which is a disaster.
Yeah.
So anybody in that space, then should just give us a call.
Excellent. And how best to get in touch with you?
Go to the website and request some information, www.taskize.com.
And lots to see on there as well.
Yes.
Perusing it this morning.
Yeah.
Listen, it's been great talking to you as always.
Thank you for having me.
I'm thrilled with how it's going for the business. I mean, if you just think about how long it's been in action and how far you've come, it's extraordinary. So it's lovely to see it. I'm thrilled for you as an organisation, and thanks for sharing the story and a bit of your insight today.
Thank you.
And we'll see you again soon.
Indeed. Thank you very much.
Thanks to all of you for watching. We'll see you again on another episode of Fintech Focus TV very soon. Thanks for watching.